Give us the story on Eason.
Gotcha.
Okay.
All right. Reclaimations started out as an entry for iron driver. We used the SB19 tweeter originally, and it was horrible. So I made a new baffle and used the XT25 instead. Real happy with the way it sounds. I think it could use a fatter bottom end a little bit. So I was just actually talking to Craig about maybe doing a WMTMW or just throw an 8-inch woofer under. I think it'd be almost perfect then. The cabinets, I've had the wood since I was probably 23 years old. I remodeled an old farmhouse and it was maple flooring. All covered in carpet glue, and I stripped it, planed it, and made cabinets out of it. So crossover is about 2.2K. It's right around there. Third order electrical on both, the woofer and the tweeter. So the Reclaimations.
What's the box tuning? Remember?
I don't remember at all. Chuck might. Actually, Chuck was the one who did the box.
I want to say it was right around 40, 41, something
Yeah.
like that. I don't remember.
Yeah.
One
Yep.
cube for the pair, something like that.
Yep. So these are the Swan speakers, the thread that got deleted on PE. The one guy posted the link, I went to it, and I thought, hey, for 175 bucks, you can't go wrong. That was cabinets, crossover. I have no idea where they're crossed. I really don't know the model number of the drivers. I just know that for $175, you can't buy just the speakers. So, figured I'd jump on it. As far as, well, I'll just play them and let you guys.
Okay. These were my first project at the Parts Express design team. They Midnight Magics use the Fatal Pro 5 FE120 woofer, the Dayton AMT 2-4. The cabinets are the knockdown de novo quarter cubic foot cabinets. They are ported in the rear. I believe the FB is right around 60 and F3 is like 54, 55-ish. It's a third order electrical on the woofer, fourth order electrical on the tweeter, so that results in like sixth order slope on that tweeter, and they're crossing about 3.5K.
They're SB26 STAC and W4 tang band. I don't remember the model number, but it crossovers at 2,000 hertz and second order on the woofer, third order on the tweeter. And yeah, it's just bio caps basically, but they're pretty fun. They have good bass and top end's pretty good. They're just fun basically. The woofer was I didn't intentionally mean to. Well, I was gonna mount it on the front, and then I was like, I don't want to waste the baffle. I'll mount it on the back so it looks better. But I don't know. The phase aligned, so I don't know what I did to fix that, but it seems okay.
Is this the first crossover that you did yourself?
Second, yeah. The one I did like maybe 2 years ago.
Mike wouldn't say it, but I think the things sound awesome, and I can't believe how good they sound. I mean, second crossover, dude, you did a really good job.
Thank you.
And I'm stunned by how good they sound. The bass, everything, it's awesome.
Okay, so I call these Polaris. I didn't have any grand plan other than the fact I wanted to make a two-way and I wanted to use the SB17 NAC driver. I've always loved the SB drivers, but the ones I've used seem to all have some kind of issues between like 1 and 2K, and that bothers me, it grates me. And if you look at the measurements of this driver, in that range, it's just ruler flat. So I figured it probably doesn't have those issues, so a really good mid-range. It's still going to have the build quality of the SB. And yeah, the XT25 tweeter. It's crossed at 2.2K LR4. The whole speaker has a shaped response. It kind of sounds like the Continuum LS35A. I got to hear that a couple years ago for the first time, and I really liked the way it sounded with voices, because it sounds like something a little more natural. So it's got shaped response. mass loaded cabinet. It's got a slot port. It's tuned to somewhere in the 40s, like 44, something like that, which is about the F30. The cabinet's a little smaller than the driver wants, because power handling on a 6-inch driver that wants a 1 cubic foot vented enclosure at 30 hertz is craptastic. So it's a little better than this.
So what's the idea of putting the tweeter on the bottom?
It's like, for a lot of your crossover alignments, what you find is that if you have the tweeter on top and you go down, the lobing's worse than it is if you go up. So if you invert it, we spend most of our time listening to either ear level or above. So if you invert it, you get a better agent pattern above the speaker.
Why did you choose to offset the woofer? I've never seen anybody offset a woofer.
It actually affected the fraction a little bit, believe it or not, but it was more aesthetically because it all lines up. That's all.
So, these are, I have a love-hate relationship with these. They took me about a year to build. I don't take a year to build anything, but they sat around and I just messed with them a lot. This was a Jed Coons design. If you guys don't know, he's from Clearwave loudspeaker design. Good friend of mine. I sent him the cabinets, or one cabinet, and he worked up the crossover. In all honesty, I haven't really played these at all. I just got them finished this week, and my system at home is a MacBook Air into a Parasound Halo integrated. And last weekend, the logic board failed on the MacBook Air, so I haven't really played these except for FM radio. So we'll hear them together, which should be interesting. The drivers, the woofer is the SB17 carbon, and the tweeter is the Satori TW29. I really like the tweeter. I did listen to them before I got them finalized for a little while, and I thought they sounded good. It's hard when you listen to Illuminators every day. So I think they're okay, but we'll listen to them together. They're for my wood shop, so they don't need to be perfect. The shape of the cabinet was just a trial. I'm like, let's just try it and see what happens. So the construction is a 1-inch MDF frame, and then the side panels are 5 layers of 1/8-inch hardboard. But when you curve them, they're rock solid. So these are really nice and dead. But Jen said the shape of the cabinet kind of screwed with the sound quality a little bit of pipe resonance or something. And so I tried to add some more stuffing, but I'll let you guys listen to them and see what you think.
This is your wood shop speakers.
Yeah.
Give the mail from my garage.
About 2008, it was probably, maybe 10 designs in from the start. I messed with the position on the baffle first to try and get the most linear response I could because the drivers were so erratic by themselves. And then went ahead after that. Turns out that the woofer preferred a sharp edge in a certain position and the tweeter wanted a rounded edge in a certain position. So I just left them where they liked it and I went from there. The cabinet itself is sort of an inside-out deal. The bottom half is the opposite of the top half. So I've got rounded edge here, sharp edge here. It's sort of a visual thing. And I think they look pretty cool. This is a Rust-Oleum, not Rust-Oleum, but Krylon hammered black topped with the metal cast red. And then, I don't even remember what clear coat's on top of it. But it's a HiVi M4N and the TN25. The crossover's around 3K and it's 4/4.
Okay, so this kind of the working name, I call them Jessie girl. It's my middle daughter. And this will be her graduation present. She's graduating high school this year. So she's already picked her paint colors and stuff, and I think the MDF actually is going to look better than what she's picked, but they're hers. So the drivers are Audible Physics, one of my favorite companies to work with lately. This was a 4-inch driver and the 1-inch tweeter. The 1-inch tweeter is based on their Ram 1s. Much less quality and less expense put into the tweeter. These were available at MCM, and unfortunately, with MCM closing, they decided not to keep this line, so they blew these drivers out for like 1/4 of the price. The enclosure is 5 waders. FB on with the dual ports is 70, and the F3 is actually all the way down to 60. Crossover point is at 4.2K. second order on the woofer and third on the tweeter. And I said that these, one of the quickest, easiest little speakers I've done. I said I put these together this last week, modeled them, measured them on Monday, put the crossovers together on Tuesday, Wednesday, and played them Wednesday night and haven't had a chance to play much more than that. That's about it.
I came with an idea of trying to focus, we all try to focus on a different part of it. I like to look at the voice range as much as possible. And I came up with an idea how to make that as clean as possible on my speakers at home. So I tried to build them into monitors. So most of the stuff that I came up with, I put in here, and I've got the mini DSPs that allows me to screw around with the crossovers a lot. And last night, I thought I'd put a slope on it because I had a curve. I brought the high end down from about 1200 to make it flat. I think I took out too much to highs. So this morning in the bedroom, I tried hooking it over the computer. So I don't know exactly where I ended up with on them. But years ago, I actually had a patent on some speakers that Bose tried to copy. So I came up with these. I don't know if they're unique enough to get patented or not. That's one of the things on here. I can't tell you too much about what's inside. There is a 7-inch esoteric, I guess, Dayton audio, and I will say that the baffle is not flat on the inside, so that's about all I can say. Appreciate your input. Mine is, tell me what I need to work on.
So we got a small two-way kit here, CSS LD22 tweeter and a Satori MW13 midwoofer. Fantastic little midwoofer. The tweeter's great too. It's in just over a little over a cubic foot cabinet space, tuned to about 55 hertz. See what you think.
You said half cube, right?
A little over a quarter.
That's why there's the two brands.
RS28A, RS28A, aluminum dome. Solid chunk of aluminum, cabinet built like a bolt, plywood frame with an MDF wrap.
So you made the waveguide?
I made the waveguide on a lathe.
Nice.
Went through a bunch of different curvatures out of MDF. Garbage man thought I was insane making bowls with holes in the middle. HiVi M8. It's crossed about 1050-ish, right there is where it worked out.
How'd you do the inlay?
The inlay was done just stacking up the veneer with two different types on top of one another. Made a MDF pattern to follow and cut along that.
Because I've done inlays and I can tell on the curve. I've never done anything like it. Must have been a
That's how I did it with the pattern and put them on top of one another and cut them both at the same time.
nice job.
And then just your standard veneer tape with the holes in it
Yeah,
to glue it together.
looks good. Seamless.
So
Very cool.
give them a try. See if you like them.
They're on the cover of the new Sound Solutions.
Yeah, man, I just went straight at it with my own, and like I said, I just kept making them off
Right over here, I'd be doing the next one.
These are very smooth as they fall off. Better. They hold up real well. Sorry, dude.
No problem. I'm just, in case anybody wanted to hear me. Yeah, I took these to MWAF2 in the under 200 category. Nothing near as fancy as the other ones. Simple finish. It's just Rust-Oleum flat black chalkboard paint covered with VHT tint. That's all it's on the paint. Basic black. Baffles were in Indiana door prize. I just picked them up off the floor and took them home. RS125-4, M3N from HiVi. The dot in the middle, I was hoping would flatten off the top octave, and what it actually did was take out a 250 hertz resonance. I left it. I don't know why it was there or what was causing it, but I know it fixed it, so I just left it alone. The crossover is actually about 900 hertz, and it's full baffle step comp. F3's in the 50s, and off axis does suffer a little bit on the top end, but they are all the way up to 20 kilohertz.
Is that aperiodic board?
It's aperiodic, yes, thank you for mentioning that. I do have an aperiodic vent on the back. It's an old tweeter faceplate that I shoved a whole bunch of foam in behind. And crossover's in sort of a bay of its own underneath. and tap speaker.
Is that a full range or?
It's a full range, yes.
Okay.
But it's only running down to 900.
So these are the other ones that we're working on that use the LDW7 woofer. So these sound considerably different to me than the other ones. These are what I would say are more lively, but they have a bigger sound stage, I think. So I think some people prefer these and some people prefer the other ones. It's just going to be a matter of opinion, I think.
Crossover point?
1900 third order on the tweeter. It's like 1200 second order on the woofer, 1100. The actual like physical crossover point is around 1600.
Hey, Kerry, tilt that one in a little bit.
In?
My fault, no. All right, this is the Redemption. Everybody wants to see it again. This is Redemption. Originally, this started off as Mike's three-way in the Trinities. We decided to change the system up and go with a completely different route. So the woofer is the Eclipse W6520R. The tweeter is the Dayton RS28F. Crossover point is at 1.5, and it's second order crossover electrical on both, and resulting was actually a fourth order LR4 at that 1.5. The reverse null at 1.5 is like 37, 38 dB, and it's really narrow. They are ported. These were 0.6 cubes, I think, and its FB is like 40, and the F3 is like 36.
All right, these started out as a rebuild project with my son. I've always wanted a pair of DCMs. One thing I do, I love 80s speakers. What I don't love is 80s technology. But the idea was to get them and then rebuild the crossovers in them, just to fresh them up and make the cabinets look nice. And got them home, found out I had two right cabinets instead of the mirror image cabinets that I was expecting, which prompted me to either decide to trash them or try to figure out how to re-engineer the cabinet to eliminate the mirror image. So what I wound up doing is filling the driver holes and then putting a 5/8 MDF plate on the front, finding center line, and then mapping out where the baffle is, and then inverted the woofer and the tweeter so I could center line the tweeter to get rid of the mirror image on it, and then turned into pricing out trying to rebuild the crossovers at Meniscus. Came out to being almost $200 just in parts with how complicated crossovers are. I'm like, well, if I'm going to spend that much, I might as well just reinvest and put new drivers and put a kit. And I wound up picking up the Blues kit and hoped for the best. You know, after sanding, cleaning, refinishing, wiring, and building crossovers with my son, this is how they turned out, which to me is probably the best sounding speakers I've ever had the pleasure of owning. But I love the look and I love the size of the DCMs. They don't sound like DCMs anymore, but I do like the look. And the speakers sound great in the cabinets.